It's a bright midsummer day in Metropolis, and there's not much news fit to televise at Galaxy Communications, where in his office, Clark Kent is monitoring the 12 o'clock news.
Clear and sunny at 12 noon in downtown Metropolis. It's 92 degrees and getting hotter.
Lois Lane, ace reporter for Galaxy Communications, opens Clark's door and looks in.
Clark, I'm off for lunch.
Enjoy it, Lois. I think I'm going to take a nap.
Lois Lane leaves, and Clark lies back in his chair, only to be rudely awakened by...
Galaxy, Clark Kent here.
Dr. Tripper speaking of the Void Observatory.
Yes, Dr. Tripper. What can I do for you?
Well, it seems, Mr. Kent, my telescope is picking up a strange sort of, well, what I can only describe as an electrical storm, which is which is approaching the Earth rapidly. I thought the news media should be advised.
Clark immediately sends for Jimmy Olsen, investigative reporter for the Daily Planet.
Listen, Jimmy, take a ride out to Void Observatory and check out what's happening and let me know immediately. I'll be here.
Meanwhile, Perry White, editor of the Daily Planet, is hosting a luncheon in honor of Superman, which is being held on the 20th floor of the 50-floor Majestic Hotel. But Superman has not yet appeared to take his place of honor. As Jimmy disappears out the door, Clark Kent steps into the closet in his office.
I thought nothing would ever come up to get Lois and Jimmy out of here so I could get to that lunch on time.
And as Clark Kent, now Superman, whizzes out his office window to attend the lunch in his honor, Jimmy Olsen drives rapidly along a winding mountain road on his way to Void Observatory, site of the most powerful telescope in the world.
Wouldn't you know, I'd have to be the one to drive all the way out here in this heat. Whew! It must be 100 degrees in the shade and no rain in sight.
Jimmy's car pulls up to Void Observatory. He walks up to the lab and... As Jimmy waits for the door of the Void Observatory to open, he happens to glance up at the sky, where he notices a small dark cloud way up, far above the highest mountaintop.
Looks like storm clouds are gathering.
The immense door finally opens, and Dr. Tripper beckons Jimmy inside.
You must be from the news media. Now, your credentials, please.
Investigative reporter, Galaxy Communications.
Well, come in then. Come in, come on.
Jimmy steps inside the room and is immediately taken aback by the sight of the gigantic telescope which occupies the whole observatory.
Wow, Doctor, that thing's a monster. You ought to be able to see a storm coming up 1,000,000 miles away.
Yes, we can. And there is a storm coming up. But I've never sighted anything like this one before. Here, let me explain this.
Meanwhile, back in Metropolis, Lois Lane sits at the counter of the Greenall drugstore where she's finishing her lunch. A pineapple ice cream soda. And at the Majestic...
And so, Superman, although absolutely nothing has happened to disturb the citizens of Metropolis for some time now, and no one has needed your services, we want you to know we greatly appreciate all that you've done for us in the past.
As Perry presents Superman with a plaque from the Daily Planet, one of the guests looks out the window.
Hey, what's that?
What's going on here?
It's hailing!
It's hailing silver bullets.
As the luncheon guests mill around the room, holes appear in the ceiling. And silver bullets streak through the room to the floor below. Panic.
Help, Superman!
Help! Help!
Now, I'd better go pick up Lois at Galaxy and get out to Void Observatory fast.
At the same time, caught outside in the street on her way back to work, Lois Lane dodges silver bullets. She runs toward the empty Galaxy offices and rushes into Clark Kent's office,
Clark?
where she finds only a television set going.
Reports from Moscow indicate a catastrophe's occurred. Since 6 o'clock this morning, we haven't heard a word. SOS, SOS, alien creatures are landing. Alien creatures are landing.
Lois stands, paralyzed, before the television set. Superman zooms through the window and comes to a screeching halt beside her.
Lois?
Superman, what is it? What's happening?
I don't know, Lois, but I have a hunch that Void Observatory is the place to find out. Let's go.
But Superman, where's Clark? I left him right here at his desk.
We'll have to look for Clark later. No time now.
And Superman and Lois are on their way to the observatory, where
So you see, Jimmy, we have been in constant radio communication with particles of what seem to be an electrical storm. But we have had no way of interpreting the signals we've been receiving. Now, our next step...
Wait a minute, Dr. Tripper. Look! It's raining silver bullets! Oh, what's going on? They seem to be evaporating everything in their path.
Oh, good grief. I'm sure that... Well, I hope they're friendly.
Superman and Lois Lane appear through the open roof of the observatory and drop to the floor beside Jimmy and Dr. Tripper.
Superman, Superman, thank goodness you've come. But what are we going to do? I'm sure these alien creatures are friendly, but they're unwittingly destroying us, and we have no way of communicating with them.
Superman, you've got to do something.
If we can't talk to them, then we must communicate without words. ESP, thought transference. It's the only way. Everyone, concentrate.
With all the superhuman power at his disposal, Superman sets his great mind in gear to send out a message to these alien creatures who, in landing on the planet Earth, can only, albeit unintentionally, destroy it. Haltingly, Superman speaks.
They say they've had to leave their planet Zoink. Because it has become uninhabitable. They say that the planet Earth is a good place for them.
Once again, Superman focuses his mind power on the incredible problem of communicating with creatures who speak no language known to man.
Help me, everyone. Help me to explain.
And the birds, the trees, the earth people, the fish, the flowers cry out.
To each its all. To all its space. Give the world back to the world. Please, friends, give the world back to the world.
Alien creatures, you will destroy our life on the planet Earth if you land. Alien creatures, you are destroying us.
Silence.
Superman, they've stopped falling. Look, they're hovering just off the ground. They don't look like silver bullets. They're like beautiful silver hummingbirds. Oh, Superman, where will they go if they can't stay here?
Yes, Lois, that's what they're saying, too.
His incredible vision, already 1 trillion times sharper than that of any ordinary being, Superman steps up beside the giant void telescope, and with no need of the aid of the most powerful telescope known to man, Superman gazes farther out into the universe than any human has ever dared or even tried to see.
Yes. Aha, there it is. A planet in the exact same orbital relationship to its sun as Zoink and the Earth are to their suns, but in an entirely different solar system, of course, from ours and theirs. Our radio waves have confused these little creatures and thrown them off their course.
Once again, Superman concentrates. Like a laser, his mind beams the exact course they must take to the silver creatures who wait shivering just a foot above the Earth's surface. Then, like a plague of locusts, the alien creatures rise up into the sky, up until they become once again a tiny, tiny dark cloud above the highest mountaintop, and then, finally, can be seen no more.
You did it, Superman. You saved us. And you saved them, too.
Once again, we have you to thank, Superman, for saving the world from total destruction.
Oh, my goodness. Clark, we've got to get back to Metropolis and find him.
All right, Lois, you drive back with Jimmy. I'll scout around and see if I can catch sight of him.
Back at Galaxy Communications a few hours later.
Clark, thank goodness you're all right. I was so worried. Where have you been?
Well, actually, Lois, I was under the desk when you and Superman were here, but I was too terrified of getting hit by a silver bullet to come out and let you know I was here. What happened?
I sure wish it would rain.
A few diehards, hoping to catch the last rays of the setting sun, lie on their blankets amongst the tin-can litter and broken glass of Crystal Beach.
That sun feels good.
Oh boy, what a day! Hey.
Tan me, son.
Suddenly, from out of the pounding surf, a million minnows in a mad dance formation squirm their way onto the beach and completely cover one of the unsuspecting bathers. Screams of panic are heard as both blanket and bather are pulled into the sea. Up on the boardwalk stand two horrified onlookers, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, both reporters for Galaxy Communications, who happen to be visiting Crystal Beach to cover a Rotary Club meeting.
Call Galaxy, Lois. I'm going down to help. Hurry!
Lois Lane rushes to a nearby phone booth and reaches Clark Kent, anchorman on the evening news, at his office.
Clark, it's incredible. A school of minnows at Crystal Beach seems to be going mad. There are millions of them. Jimmy's trying to help. Oh, good heavens! They've got Jimmy! Hurry, Clark! I'm going to call the police.
And on the beach, Jimmy's cries are drowned out by an immense flounder on his back as he is carried out to sea, while at WGBS, Clark Kent, now miraculously changed into Superman, opens the window of his office.
I don't know what the meaning of this is, but it sounds to me like a job for Superman.
And, streaking across the metropolis sky, Superman's X-ray vision spots Jimmy and the hapless sunbather as they're being dragged under the murky surf for what might just be the last time. Meanwhile, on a nearby tidal marsh, birdwatcher Bill Talon is taking notes on some very strange bird behavior.
Those gulls have been circling longer than I've ever seen before.
Suddenly, Talon picks up his binoculars.
Good heavens! They're all flying upside down. I think I'll call my friend Perry White about this one.
Mystified, Talon reports the strange occurrence to his longtime friend, Perry White, editor of the Metropolis Daily Planet.
Yes, Bill. Very interesting. Yeah, I'll send Jimmy Olsen out to check on this immediately. Well, Clark? Where's Jimmy Olsen? Clark?
Unable to locate Jimmy, Perry stops by the office of Clark Kent, Jimmy's longtime friend and co-worker.
Clark? Oh, for gosh sakes, they're both gone. Where is that Clark? Biggest story in days.
While at Crystal Point, Superman dives down into the sea and pulls the two drowning victims to the boardwalk, where Lois Lane has been anxiously watching the macabre scene taking place on the beach.
Oh, Superman, thank goodness you've arrived. How did you know?
No time for answers now, Lois. I've got to find out what's causing this strange behavior in our fish population.
As he looks out toward the crashing ocean, Superman's X-ray eyes and high-intensity ears detect the high-pitched voices and forms of 7 bottle-nosed dolphins.
If anyone can give me the answer to this riddle, I'll get it from the teachers, not the school. Wait here, Lois.
Up, then, in a dive that takes the Man of Steel hundreds of feet beneath the fouled waters, Superman swims down, faster than an atomic submarine, and finally settles in the depths of the murky waters and begins to decipher and learn the unique porpoise language.
Yes? I understand. Your aquasphere has recently been polluted by a foul-smelling substance. All the fishes in the Crystal Point area have been overcome by what? Oh, you call it the tidal marsh madness. And because you dolphins breathe air, you have not gone mad, but you're having much trouble. Your eyesight's been affected. Acne. Sore throats, huh? Oh, my poor friends. We must do something immediately about these hideously polluting substances in our waters.
Far beyond the power of man's sciences, Superman's supervision rapidly breaks down the substances composing the hideous pollutant as he makes a mental note of each chemical substance in its relationship to the horrible whole.
Thank you, friends, for the invaluable information you've given me.
Superman thanks the wise dolphins for their help and in one great jump rises out of the waters of Crystal Point. While at the Daily Planet, Perry is still pondering over the strange story of the upside-down gulls and finally decides to leave a note for Clark Kent just as Superman appears in Clark's office window.
Great Scott, Superman. Can't you use the door? You frightened me to death. Well, I must admit, I'm certainly glad you're here.
Perry tells Superman Bill the Birdwatcher's strange story.
Very interesting. Now, Perry, where's your map of Metropolis? Aha, just as I suspected.
Just as Superman suspected, the bird sanctuary is located right next to the site of the new experimental biochem industrial complex.
Birds upside down. Mad minnows. Pardon the pun, Perry, but something's fishy, and it all begins to add up to that new factory next to the tidal marsh.
And at Biochem Industries, the floodgates have just been closed and all evidence of the day's experiments washed out to sea. Metropolis seems very peaceful as Superman races across the moonless sky.
I've got to get a look at what's going on at that plant, and I think I can do that best in the guise of Clark Kent.
Screeching to a stop, on the now deserted beach, Superman returns to his role as Clark Kent and rings the bell of the Biochem Industrial Complex. Beside the lead-plated barred door, a night watchman answers the bell.
Who are you? What do you want?
I'm sorry to disturb you, but I've got some transportation difficulties and I'm stranded out here. Could I use your phone?
Well, son, I'm sorry, but no one's allowed into this place except those who belong here.
What do you mean? Listen, all I want to do is use your phone. What is this place anyway? What do they do here?
This is the Biochem Industrial Laboratories, and what they do here, well, it's top secret, mister, and it's nobody's business but our own.
The night watchman slams the door in Clark's face, but not before Superman's X-ray eyes have easily beamed past the watchman and into the lab, where with his supervision he can see that the vials contain all the chemicals necessary to manufacture the foul stuff he has just seen in the ocean, and where, with Superman's super nose, he can smell the same hideous odor discernible in the filthy waters at Crystal Point. And at the very same moment, in his enormous mansion overlooking the tidal marsh, Brian Sanders, president of Biochem, is holding a meeting of the board of directors of the corporation. Brian pounds his gavel on the table to call the meeting to order.
We have only one thing for discussion tonight, and that's our experiment. We must press ahead quickly. If we work fast enough, we'll easily outmaneuver our competitors, and very soon Biochem will control the whole chemical market completely.
But, Brian, to continue in this matter is to risk our environment, and I, for one, will not
That's enough, Dr. Maine.
But...
You're fired.
But...
Suddenly,
Superman!
Just as I thought, it's you, Brian Sanders. You have put yourself above all that we value and cherish in Metropolis. You're as ugly and useless as the aluminum cans that litter the shore of Crystal Beach and too many other beaches of the world.
No, Superman! This is only going to be a temporary situation. Please believe me. I must gain control of the market. If I do, maybe people will respect me as they respect you. Oh, please, Superman, I must be allowed to continue my experiment.
Respect? Have you ever heard of the tidal marsh madness, Sanders? Have you ever seen an innocent bather swept into the sea by millions of mad, mindless minnows? Have you ever noticed the murky waters at what used to be called Crystal Clear Beach?
Sanders begins to weep.
What have I done? I would never dream of doing anything to make you angry, Superman. I've searched for power only so you and others would look up to me. What can I do now, Superman? Is there anything I can do to make amends?
Simply understand that to be number one at the expense of all other living creatures is to be zero.
At a hard rock concert at Metropolis Stadium, 80,000 screaming kids are dancing in the aisles to the great beat of the Tones, the world's most popular rock group. The stage is heavily guarded by 550 special police who know how excited and exuberant the Tones fans get at their concerts and who are there to protect the group in case things get out of hand. In real life, the Tones are brothers, and Jimmy Tone, the group's lead singer and lead guitarist, is halfway through their latest hit song when suddenly Jimmy drops his guitar and stares up at the sky as though mesmerized by what he sees hovering directly over the stage. Slowly, a net is lowered out of the belly of the jet helicopter. The crowd has spotted the copter too, and a frantic scream goes up as their fans realize the Tones are about to be scooped up into the net and carried off.
I don't believe this. Let's get out of here.
But it's too late. In seconds, the net drops over the stage, picks up all 5 Tones, and the helicopter flies off. Within 5 minutes of the spectacular kidnap stunt, the phone rings in Clark Kent's apartment. Kent happens to be a great fan of the Tones, and faint strains of their hit song can be heard in the background.
Hello?
Clark, it's Lois. Get to Metropolis Stadium as soon as you can. The Tones have just been kidnapped, right in front of 80,000 people. No one knows what's happening or who's done it. I'll meet you on the stage.
The Tones? Kidnapped? I'll be there in 30 minutes or less. No leads. Well, I have 30 minutes or less to meet Lois, so I think I'll hop over to Metropolis Stadium now as Superman.
And on stage at Metropolis Stadium, confusion. Police and stagehands are fighting to keep the Tones' frantic fans off the stage. Superman approaches Police Chief Edwards, who tells him what's happened and introduces him to the promoter of the show, Bill Freeman.
Unbelievable, Superman. The greatest rock group in the world. I had to refund 80,000 tickets. I don't believe it.
Lois Lane appears on the stage.
Superman, this is incredible. A kidnapping in broad daylight in front of 80,000 people.
Lois, this can only be the work of Dr. B. He's obsessed with the idea of building a supercomputer which will enable him to take over the world.
I'm sure you're right, Superman. B's always had a great sense of the dramatic. Oh, where is Clark? He's missing the whole story.
The last time I saw B, he and Domino were left stranded on an island in the middle of the Dead Sea. Their half-completed computer and all means of transportation to the mainland all smashed beyond repair. Okay, Lois, I'm off to check on B's recent whereabouts and his activities. I'll talk to you later.
Almost immediately after Superman's departure, Clark Kent appears on the scene.
What happened? What's going on?
We'd better get right back to the Galaxy building. I'll fill you in on the way.
Meanwhile, in the tower apartment of Dr. B, high above Metropolis, the Tones have been fed tranquilizers and are piled in a heap on the living room floor, out cold. Dr. B's assistant associate, Domino, is muttering to himself.
Ugly-looking bunch, if I must say so myself.
One by one, the Tones begin to wake up, moaning and groaning.
My head. Oh, where are we? What a party. Must have been great.
All at once, the boys realize what's happened as they note their strange surroundings, and simultaneously...
Hey, what's the meaning of this?
Control yourself, Tones. Shortly you'll meet Dr. B. He'll tell you what's happened, and what's going to happen. In the meantime, you'll do as I say. Understand?
Just then, Dr. B enters the room.
I see our guests have awakened, Domino. Yes, you are my guests, Tones, in my tower apartment, hidden away from the eyes of the world, and most particularly from the X-ray eyes of Superman. You see, the walls of my apartment are lined with lead. We're in an impenetrable fortress high above Metropolis. And by the time Superman is able to locate us, I will already have succeeded in manufacturing artificial kryptonite through the means of the giant computer, which I will be able to build immediately upon receipt of the proceeds which I receive as your ransom money.
What?
I can assure you you'll be held in captivity until I receive $1 each from 10 million of your fans for your release. And if I haven't received $10 million by this time next week, I'm afraid I'll be forced to take unpleasant measures to assure its receipt.
But why us?
Why you? Because your group is the most popular rock group in the world. Your fans can't live without you. And I need a lot of money. Fast.
What giant computer?
The giant computer which will be the basis for the super city I'll put in orbit over Metropolis and the planet Earth. The computer which will make me King Bee of a world hive. Everyone in the world will work for me and for my pleasures. My computer will make me more powerful than Superman has been or ever would have been if I were to allow him to survive.
I think you're crazy, Dr. B.
There are snickers from the Tones. Superman will never let you get away with this, you know.
I'm afraid Superman will have no choice in the matter. Last time we three met, Superman flew off thinking he had left us powerless and stranded on an island in the Dead Sea.
As though it were just yesterday, Domino vividly describes to the Tones the secret island in the Dead Sea where Dr. B was engaged in manufacturing artificial gold, with which he intended to finance the same computer.
If I were to alter the course of Comet Z and direct it toward Dr. B's hidden gold plant, B's factory would be smashed along with B's yacht and Piper Cub. He and Domino will be left harmless on their island, and the world will be saved from B's domination.
Comet Z smashed our factory and all means of transportation, but miraculously, Dr. B and I escaped.
Only to re-emerge now with an equally bizarre scheme to gain a lot of money. And that evening, Clark Kent, anchorman for the 6 o'clock news on WGBS, is unceremoniously cut off in the middle of the story on the sensational kidnapping of the Tones. And Dr. B's face unaccountably appears on the screens of the television sets of everyone around the world.
Today, as you must already have learned, I kidnapped the Tones. Your idols will remain unharmed if and only if I receive $1 each from 10 million Tones fans within 7 days. You may mail your dollars to Post Office Box 65, Grand Station, Metropolis, USA. Zip 10004.
By the next day, the post office was flooded with letters addressed to Post Office Box 65. By the end of the day, over 4 million letters had already been received by Dr. B. And at Galaxy Communications, in the office of Perry White, fearless editor of the Daily Planet.
At least we know this much, Perry. Dr. B will stop at nothing in his pursuit to rule. Therefore, he must be stopped.
But how? He has the Tones and will hold them hostage in his impenetrable lead-lined fortress unless and until he manufactures his artificial kryptonite with which he'll then render you powerless.
It looks like I'll just have to build a better computer than B does, one that will outthink B's computer and render it harmless.
But what about the Tones?
Don't worry, Lois. The Tones will be all right. Their fans will free them. They'll probably send in $15 million, and Dr. B will release them before he discovers that I have put together a computer far more intelligent and advanced than his.
And indeed, 3 days later, the Tones are found bound and gagged under the stage at Metropolis Stadium. They'd been freed not 10 feet away from the spot from which they'd been kidnapped, and they weren't quite ready at that moment to get on with the show. While circling in the skies above the planet Earth, Dr. B has programmed his computer to produce artificial kryptonite particles, which he'll then feed into the Earth's atmosphere, thereby polluting the air with kryptonite and leaving Superman powerless forever.
Domino, throw the switch.
And it goes, Dr. V. But wait.
What's the matter?
There's something wrong here.
The indicator light is blinking red. What's happened?
That's the computer.
All right. Here comes the answer. What does it say?
The card reads, I have been superseded by another computer. That computer belongs to Superman, and it is much more intelligent than I. I can do nothing to harm Superman because his computer will blow my fuses if I ever make such an attempt.
I don't believe it. Domino, throw the switch one more time.
As Domino throws the switch against the warning of the helpless computer, the fuses within the giant machine are blown with such force that B's circling city-to-be is thrown completely off its orbit and out into space, ostensibly free-falling for eternity, as Dr. B screams,
You think you're rid of me, Superman, but I'll be back, and next time I'll win!
In Superman's Fortress of Solitude stands Kandor, the city in a bottle, stolen and miniaturized by a space pirate before the explosion of the planet Krypton. In this controlled environment, 1 million microscopic inhabitants keep the towering civilization of Superman's native world alive. Standing at the podium before a capacity audience in the city's civic center is Darvam, Kandor's Commissioner of Science Police.
To the annual Science Police Awards ceremonies. To present the decorations for outstanding officers of the past year, I am privileged to present a man whose visits from the outside world are not nearly often enough. Kal-El, known to most of the galaxy as Superman.
Thank you, fellow Kandorians. The job of being a Superman is very different from being a policeman. And so it is, with the greatest respect, that I call Science Police Officer Ron Za to the podium to accept.
Look, a man with a gravity gun!
Hello, are you all right? Thank the fates you ducked in time.
I'm going to do more than that, Ron Za.
He's running away!
Look out for that gun! Somebody stop him!
Hold on, Kal-El.
Let go of me, Ron Za. You're keeping me from
getting hurt. You don't have your superpowers here in Kandor. Not in an environment just like Krypton's.
But
let me do what I've been trained for. Watch.
Over there, Ranza! He's hiding behind that statue!
Everyone clear the complex now! You've nowhere to run, you Kandorian scum!
Make a move for me and my gravity gun will blast your atoms apart!
Blast away! It won't save you!
Ranza's been hit!
But look! His uniform is deflecting a gravity beam back at the terrorist! And it's...
A neat trick, Ron Za. How did you pull it off?
Simple, Kal-El. Policemen on Earth are sometimes known to wear bulletproof vests. But we science police in Kandor have gone them one better. Our uniforms repel a would-be killer's ammunition right back to the source.
He's in critical shape, but after a few hours in the rehabilitation booth, he'll be completely recovered.
And then he can stand trial for attempting to assassinate our distinguished guest of honor.
I'm indebted to you, Ron Za. That was a fine display of police work.
That's our Ron. Now you know how he got the reputation of being Kandor's finest.
After many fond farewells, Superman leaves the microscopic confines of the tiny bottle city as the microwave beamer in his fortress restores him to normal size. And then it's the Arctic fortress he leaves behind as he streaks back to Metropolis and his job as mild-mannered Clark Kent, anchorman for WGBS TV News.
Okay, Clark, let's go over it again. Mr. Edge, I wanted to talk to you because...
Wait, I think I got it. Mr. Edge, I wanted to talk to you because I really think I'm entitled to more. I mean, it's my opinion that, well, if it's all right with you, of course, could you please, maybe...
No, Clark. All wrong. Stop hedging. You just tell him you want a raise and you know you deserve it. That's all there is to it.
But, Lois, I couldn't be that blunt. Not with Mr. Edge. It wouldn't be right.
Sometimes, Clark, I wonder why I even bother with you at all.
That plane's in trouble!
The engines are on fire! It's out of control!
Oh my gosh, Clark, it's going to hit the Galaxy building. Can't anybody do something?
I can, but not standing around here. I've got to slip away and change to...
Look, Clark, up in the sky.
Great Scott!
Hey, that's not Superman! You could have fooled me! Look what he's doing!
I don't believe this, Clark. A man in a weird costume grabbed the fuselage of that plane and is flying it to safety just like Superman would.
Believe me, Lois, I'm as surprised as you are. I'd better find a telephone booth and phone this story into the station.
Okay, Clark, but the newspaper byline is mine.
But instead of finding a phone, Clark Kent finds a deserted alley, and a heartbeat later the soft-spoken reporter sheds his clothes to become the mighty Man of Steel himself, Superman! And a few moments later, at Metropolis Airport, an astounded ground crew has watched an amazing demonstration.
Phew! You don't look like Superman, but you sure operate like him. You brought that twin-engine job in on your shoulders and put out the flames with super breath just like a real pro.
Yeah, but if you're not Superman, who are you, buddy?
I assure you my name is not Buddy.
His name is Ron Za, gentlemen.
Superman!
The real one!
Greetings, Kal-El. I knew it wouldn't take you long to find me.
You and I have some things to discuss, Ron Za. What do you say we talk in private? About 50,000 feet up?
After you.
Gee! Now it looks like Metropolis has two Supermen.
Looks like. I just hope...
What? What is it?
I just hope those two are friends.
Here we are, leveling off at 50,000 feet.
Let's have it, Ron Za. Why have you followed me to the outside world?
Because in Kandor, I'm the best there is. You gave me an award that says so. But what does a superior city like Kendor need with an expert crime fighter?
You were born and trained there. That's where you belong.
I belong here on Earth. I'm better at this than you are. This planet is a mess, Kal-El. With Kryptonian superpowers along with my training, I'll be a super cop.
But you know nothing about superpowers. I've had them since I was a baby, and even I make mistakes sometimes.
That's because you're an amateur and I'm a professional.
Where are you flying off to?
I've got work to do. Got to show you what superpowers and training can do.
Over the next several days, Ronza of Kendor tries to prove his boast as the people of Metropolis and the world take notice.
This is Clark Kent with a WGBS TV News summary. The mysterious super cop continues to dominate the headlines. Today, he issued summonses to 36,000 jaywalkers, and he heat-beamed the engines of 12,000 cars he claimed were polluting the air too much. Several days ago, he said that since most crimes occur in the nighttime hours, people would need a special pass from him to walk the streets of Metropolis after 9 p.m. WGBS reporter Jimmy Olsen filed this report on today's demonstration against the curfew.
Here on the left bank of the Metropolis River, over 15,000 marchers have shown up for this demonstration against the rules laid down by... A new development. The super cop has entered the scene. He seems to be... Yes, he's coming over here.
You're a reporter. I'd like to make a statement.
My audience is yours.
I'd like Metropolis to know there will be no more demonstrations against any laws issued by me. Anything I decree is necessary for the welfare of...
Superman!
Hello, Jimmy. Ronza, I believe you're making a mistake here.
Move along, Kal-El. You should have done this years ago yourself.
Maybe so. But the right to protest is guaranteed by law to all American citizens. You can no more limit that right legally than commit grand theft.
Oh, I'll be back.
Both Superman and the super cop are flying off now. No, the super cop is diving into the river. It looks like... Hey, a water spout is popping up where he dove in. The water from the river is rising up and beginning to tumble from the sky onto the demonstrators. It's a cloudburst, and there isn't a cloud in the sky, and it's breaking up the mark. The super cop can't stop the demonstration directly, but there's no law against making it rain. This is Jimmy Olsen for WGBS TV News.
This is Clark Kent back in the WGBS studio. The curfew and the new rules are still in effect, and Superman has made no public statement on the matter. We'll have more news after this word from our sponsor.
Hey, Clark, where are you running off to? You've got a newscast to finish.
This is no time for a coffee break. It's only a 60-second commercial.
But the mild-mannered newsman has a far more pressing problem on his mind as he finds a deserted stockroom a few doors up from Studio B.
Reading that report on Ronza's policies was the last straw. It's about time someone told him Metropolis cannot be run like a police state. And that someone is... Superman!
But elsewhere in the city at that moment, another superpowered figure patrols a neighborhood at low altitude.
Look at these earthling citizens. Many of them duck into their houses and automobiles as I pass by. This is the way they should regard the law, with great respect and perhaps a little fear. That's what Kal-El's biggest mistake was. He made everyone take Superman for granted, as if he were on their level. He didn't know the law has to be set above the general public for it to function. Now, that's odd. Some sort of strange light beams seem to be emanating from that automobile junkyard up ahead. This bears investigating. The radiation is very weak, and coming from that one primitive automobile over... The headlights of that car turned on some horrible death ray. Can't stand up.
No, you can't, can you? Any more than Superman could, if you were he.
Who are you? Crouched in the car. Show yourself.
Delighted to, super cop, or whatever you call yourself. I'm Lawrence Gabriel, and these quasar beams causing you so much discomfort are a rather brilliant invention of mine.
Why would you want to kill me?
It wasn't you I was commissioned to destroy. It was Superman. But when the crime syndicate bosses hear you fell into my trap instead, I'm sure they'll be almost as delighted. I'll try to make it to your funeral, old man.
No. Where are you going? How do I get out of here?
Oh, just turn off the headlights. If you can crawl that far.
My super hearing, picking up the sound of children playing elsewhere in this auto graveyard. If I can throw my voice to them with super ventriloquism.
And elsewhere in the large junkyard.
Found you, Joey. Your shirt was sticking out behind the door.
You did not. You didn't see me until after I...
Attention! This is Ronza of the Science Police.
Where's that voice coming from? From nowhere?
I need your help, boys. Please come to the northeast corner of this junkyard. Immediately.
It's one of that creepo super cop's tricks. I don't know about you, but I ain't getting caught.
Me neither. Maybe he passed a law says you get the electric chair for playing in junkyards.
I'm done for. Little children are afraid to come near me, even when I'm helpless as a fish. Maybe Kal-El was right. Perhaps my methods were wrong. That sound. Is there time for home? Kal-El! Now I know why they call you Superman.
No time for that. The switches in this car are rusted and useless. I'll have to help the owner of this junkyard by crushing this particular car for him.
Superman, Kal-El. You saved my life. How can I thank you?
By doing your duty to your people, our people, in Kandor. I received a message just minutes ago that a crime wave has broken out, and the authorities are at their wits' end. I have work to do here, but in Kandor, they need you.
But that scientist, Gabriel, he'll get away.
I just delivered him personally to a federal prison. Been waiting for him to show his face so I could nab him for weeks. That's how I learned where you were. Now, if you'll excuse me, Ronza, I have work to do.
As I do, home in Kandor, where they need me. As for Earth, well, I guess there's only one Superman.
It was like the end of the world. There was destruction everywhere. People scrambled around in hysterical panic. Cars and buses and taxis were slamming into each other by the second. Mass confusion reigned here in downtown Metropolis like never before. And the cause of all this?
No. I don't know what got into me. I didn't mean to cause all that destruction. I'm sorry. So sorry.
The time, 4 in the morning. The place, an apartment at 344 Clinton Street in Metropolis, where newscaster Clark Kent has been suffering through a night of fitful sleep.
Phew. That was some nightmare. The city looked like a tornado swept through it. The only trouble was, I was the tornado. After waking up from something like that, I could use a breath of fresh air.
The man that gets out of bed is accustomed to having the problems of the world upon his massive shoulders, whether asleep or awake. For this man, opening the window in his pajamas, is secretly the mighty Superman himself.
Great Krypton! Buildings demolished, cars piled up, people scrambling around in mass confusion. Then it wasn't a dream. It was all horribly real.
In stunned disbelief, the Man of Steel switches on his TV in search of some sort of explanation.
And here at the scene, our cameras clearly show the extent of the destruction, indicating it was truly a miracle that no lives were lost, although a small number of people were injured. And as unthinkable as it is to believe, all the eyewitnesses named the same culprit, Superman.
That's impossible. I was here asleep.
The mayor and law enforcement officials are said to be meeting right now to discuss what sort of action should be taken against Superman for this despicable display of superpowers on a rampage. As soon as a decision is reached, WGBS-TV will relay the information to you viewers. This is Lois Lane, here in the wake of chaos on 3rd Avenue, returning you now to our studios.
Thank you, Lois. We'll have more news after this commercial word.
Friends, do you ever worry about perspiration odor?
At least I think I was here asleep. Is it possible, conceivable, that I sleepwalked out of my apartment and went berserk as Superman? Could the memory of my rampage be so unbearable I blotted it out?
thinking it was only a dream.
But wait, I've just been handed a bulletin. A small army of police have surrounded the laboratory retreat of arch-criminal Lex Luthor. All efforts to force him out in the open have been stymied by Luthor's arsenal of super-scientific weapons. Ordinarily, the police force would broadcast a plea to Superman for help. But in view of his recent wild rampage...
If it was me on that rampage, I should turn myself in. But not while Lex Luthor is still at large. Bringing in that fiend may be my last official act as Superman, but it's got to be done. And now...
Meanwhile, at the scene of the crisis, a deserted pavilion left behind from the 1968 Metropolis World's Fair.
Come out with your hands above your head, Luthor. We've got you completely surrounded, and more reinforcements are on the way.
You can call in the entire police force of Gotham City while you're at it, but there's no way any of you can break through the impenetrable force field I've projected around the pavilion. No way!
We've got the heavy artillery set up now, Chief.
All right, give the men the order to fire.
I don't believe it. Not one of them connected. I mean, we can't even see that crazy barrier, but it stops anything short of an A-bomb.
Don't kid yourself. It's probably Megaton-proof along with everything else. I don't know what we can... Superman!
I'm here to help.
I don't know if I should try to arrest you myself or call the Marines first.
I won't offer any resistance, Chief, as long as you let me arrest Luthor first.
But how do we know you won't turn wild again? I don't know.
Let's face it, Chief. Nothing we've got is going to get us inside that barrier. Superman's the only guy on Earth who can crack it.
Okay, Superman, you're on. Do what you do best.
My pleasure, Chief.
He's diving right for it and point blank range. He went right through it, like it wasn't even there.
Why do you think they call him Superman, Chief?
Glad you could make it, Superman. I've been expecting you.
What kind of no good are you up to this time, Luthor? And what's the purpose of the big gizmo sending a ray beam up into space?
That gizmo, as you put it, has been steadily stripping away a certain vital layer of the Earth's atmosphere for weeks now. What are you doing?
Melting your infernal machine into a puddle with my heat vision.
But it's too late, you caped fool. The damage has already been done.
What was it, Luthor? The ionosphere? The ozone layer?
No. It was something not even you have heard of, Superman. The Zota layer. But you'll never see it for yourself. My machine has destroyed it.
You deluded maniac!
But don't be alarmed. No one on Earth will be harmed, at least not directly. The only person who was protected by the Zota layer was you.
You've got exactly 3 seconds to start making sense.
There's a peculiar type of radiation out there that not even you are immune to, Superman. It affects your mind whenever you relax or go to sleep. Turns you into a wild man and makes you go absolutely berserk.
Great Scott! The destruction tonight in Metropolis.
That's right, old foe, it was you. And with the Zota layer gone, you can bet it will be happening a lot more often.
Look, Chief! Superman did it! He bagged Luthor!
Luthor's not moving, is he?
Just unconscious. I knocked him out cold. He's all yours.
Thank you, Superman. No one else could have done it. I don't know what to say.
Say you'll put me under armed guard, Chief, and that you'll notify the President and the Pentagon at once. I'm afraid I've become a national menace.
It doesn't take long for the nightmarish news to sweep the world like a shockwave. The mighty Man of Steel, once a super champion, admired by billions, has proclaimed himself a wild man, afraid of going on an uncontrollable rampage at any moment.
This is Lois Lane for WGBS. Ordinarily, Clark Kent would be delivering this newscast, but being such a close friend of Superman's, he has been too upset to report in for work. And that is easy to understand considering today's top story. President Fairlane spent the morning in conference with the nation's top scientists to discuss perhaps the greatest problem mortal men have ever had to bear, the fate of Superman.
And even as a distressed Lois delivers her grim newscast, the chief executive and the mightiest man on Earth are having a somber conference in the Oval Office of the White House.
People are afraid. Everyone knows now about the Zota layer and what can happen now that it's gone. All they have to do is look at those 10 blocks in Metropolis you leveled to the ground.
I'm sorry, sir.
Not as sorry as I am, for the world will soon be about what I have to ask you to do. None of our leading scientists knows any way of restoring the Zota layer that Luthor removed. So I'm afraid we're only left with one alternative.
Yes, sir.
Superman, I must ask you to exile yourself from the planet Earth. Although your tremendous services to mankind will be gravely missed, I can fathom no other way of guaranteeing you won't go off on another destructive rampage.
Unfortunately, neither can I, sir.
Then it's settled.
Not quite, Mr. President. You realize, of course, that as soon as I'm off the Earth, Lex Luthor will use his super scientific wizardry to break jail. And with me gone, he'll do his best to rule the world with his fantastic machines.
You're right. And without a Superman to protect us, that bald-headed genius would probably succeed. Perhaps I should consult my advisors again.
No need, sir. The solution is simple. Have Luthor exiled from the Earth along with me. I'll make sure he never returns to menace anybody. It's the only way.
Yes, the only way.
It takes only one scant week for Superman to construct a 2-passenger interstellar rocket, because he works without rest or relaxation, lest his mind succumb to the deadly radiation that has made him a potential wielder of doom. 1 week is all it takes for the career of the greatest superhero of all to come to an end.
And it's a beautifully executed launch, ladies and gentlemen, being broadcast all over the world simultaneously via satellite. Never in the history of mankind have so many people joined to watch one single event. And what a tragic event it is. The villainous Lex Luthor will not be missed, but Superman... Watching Superman leave is the greatest loss the human race has ever faced. How we will fare the
We'll be free of Earth's gravity in another 9.7 seconds. Enjoying the ride, Superman?
For a man leaving the world behind him, Luthor, you don't seem very concerned.
To tell you the truth, Superman, life on Earth would become quite boring without your meddling to contend with. Superman, you're breaking your straps. You're not supposed to get up until we finish climbing through the atmosphere.
Well, you see, old fool, I've just changed my mind. I'm going back to Earth, alone.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about leaving, Luthor. I'm going to crash through the hull and leave you.
But you can't! You promised! If you break the hull, the ship will explode and I'll die!
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Wait, Superman! No!
And moments later at the White House, as the news of the spaceship's destruction reaches a dismayed President Fairlane by phone.
The ship did what? I don't believe it. How could Superman have fouled up like that? Superman, what are you doing back here? What did you do to Luthor?
Nothing, yet. As if you didn't know.
But they told me you abandoned the ship, left Luthor to die in space.
I left an android in space. An artificial duplicate of Luthor. Exact in every detail, except one detail. It's built-in neglected. When we were taking off, the fake Luthor was completely unaffected by the force of the G's on takeoff as we broke free of the Earth's atmosphere. The real Luthor would have shown the stress on his face.
Incredible. But if Luthor wasn't in that ship, where is he?
Nice try, Luthor, but you're just not presidential material.
What are you saying?
You're not the real President Fairlane. You're Lex Luthor, wearing a latex mask and a voice adapter.
Very clever, Superman. I really thought I had you this time, but I've still got the upper hand.
How's that?
Only I know where I've hidden the real President Fairlane. And unless you let me go free, I'm not talking.
Is that right?
Oh, my face. It feels so hot under this mask. I've got to take it off.
You'll never make it, Luthor. I'm using my heat vision to melt your President Fairlane mask.
Please, stop! It feels like 10 sunburns at once. The mask is so hot and gooey.
Sure, I'll stop. Just tell me where the real president is.
All right, you win. I'll take you to Fairlane. Just turn off the heat. Oh!
The next day, after President Fairlane is safely back in his office and Lex Luthor is safely behind bars, let's join Clark and Lois.
I don't get it, Clark. If there never was a Zodalea in the atmosphere, what was that machine in Luthor's hideout Superman destroyed?
It was really a dream projector. Luthor beamed it at Superman's head when he flew overhead on patrol. And that night, he dreamed he went on a rampage.
But there really was a rampage. 10 blocks were leveled.
By a Superman android Luthor created, with very limited strength. That's why Luthor chose 10 blocks that were mostly condemned buildings and ready to come down anyway.
Clark, why is it you're so incredibly well-informed when it comes to Superman?
Just doing my best to stay on top of the news, Lois. Don't worry. One of these days, a scoop will come your way. Wait and see.
Just for that, Clark Kent, lunch is on you.
In a crude laboratory in the basement of his home, D. Allison Weatherspoon, a brilliant young biophysicist, has been working on the invention of an alternate energy source to come to the aid of an oil-starved world. Today is Weatherspoon's 21st birthday.
At last. A catalyst to speed up the fermentation of quick-growing spores which give off a gaseous byproduct similar to marsh gas. The gas can be compressed and stored in tanks and can be used to run the new, virtually friction-free rotary engine I've developed. It will be called Voila! And it will provide a cheap, unlimited source of power for everyone and anyone.
Realizing the vast potential of his discovery, Weatherspoon decides to telephone WGBS and release the news to humanity.
Ah, what a great birthday present to myself. A present for the world. Now everyone will be capable of creating his own fuel. They can grow it in their backyards and store it in their basements.
Galaxy Communications, Clark Kent here.
Oh, Mr. Kent, you're anchorman on the 6 o'clock news, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Well, my name's D. Allison Weatherspoon, son of the famous physicist C. Allison Weatherspoon. Well, I've discovered an alternate source of energy to the limited sources we now know of and use today.
That's an astounding statement, Weatherspoon. Are you sure?
Well, of course I'm sure. Voila! Make it for yourself. How's that for a headline, huh? Do you understand what this will mean to the world? Oh, by the way, a personal note, Mr. Kent. Today is my 21st birthday, so, well, I'd like to make the announcement today. You understand?
Well, yes. Happy birthday, Weatherspoon. But listen, you can't announce your discovery just like that. First, of course, we have to make certain that it works.
What? Well, of course it works.
And once that's been established, we must make certain such a miracle fuel will be put to use. You remember the rumor of the gas pill that had only to be dropped in water?
Well, of course. And it was an excellent idea, too.
Ah, then you can see why your discovery must be kept top secret until the people are capable of controlling its use and making sure that such a fuel will be used only for the benefit of the people. Of all the people.
Yes, yes. You're quite right, Mr. Kent. You're quite right.
You must understand, Witherspoon, there are evil-minded persons in the world who will try to control your invention for their own selfish ends, and narrow-minded persons as well, who know only their own way of doing things and are afraid to try new ways, no matter how much better they might be.
Change is always frightening, but it is growth. Why? Why, oh why must power always corrupt?
All power corrupts, yes, although Superman...
You're right, though. Over the years, Superman has handled immense power and has always retained a sense of justice and fair play.
Well, Superman knows he could gain all, but if he were to try, he'd only lose it.
You know, Mr. Kent, while we've been talking, I've decided to place my invention in the hands of Superman. Well, he's just the person I need right now. A man with nothing to gain and nothing to lose. A man who's proved himself to be on the side of humanity.
I think that's a very good idea, Dr. Witherspoon, and I think I know just where Superman can be found at this moment.
Incredible! You are a Superman, Mr. Kent. You've helped me out enormously with my problem. So what if I can't announce my discovery on my birthday? It won't kill me, huh? Well, anyway, today I received my inheritance from my father, and it includes a paper which was to be entrusted to me on my 21st birthday. I assume I'll be the inheritor of another of my father's fabulous inventions, as well as my own. Well, I can't wait to read my father's letter now. You may actually want to be present when I receive the envelope, Mr. Kent. You see, Perry White, editor of the Daily Planet, was one of my father's dearest friends, and he's the executor of my dad's estate. It's Uncle Perry who will be passing on to me my father's last words, which will undoubtedly be brilliant.
That's great news. I'll be there, but do me a favor. Don't leave your house or go anywhere until after you've seen Superman. Can you promise me that?
Mr. Kent, sometimes the worst of times brings out the best in men, as my daddy always used to say. Imagine, a cheap and harmonious fuel with no noxious fumes. Voila!
Weatherspoon stands in awe before his simple engine, now fully aware of all its meaning and ramifications.
No, Mr. Kent. I won't leave. I won't be picking up Dad's letter until 3 o'clock this afternoon. In the meantime, I'll wait right here for Superman.
At the same time, in an abandoned subterranean atomic silo, 80 miles beneath the crust of the Earth, monitoring Allison's conversation with WGBS, the forces of evil, of protective device and self-interest, are gathering every bit of information they can get in an effort to put together a scheme to learn Weatherspoon's secret and thereby gain control of the miraculous fuel by whatever means necessary. Back in Weatherspoon's basement.
Now I can understand how Copernicus, Galileo, and Edison must have felt. Well, they were all links in the long chain of men whose Einsteinian minds must have formed the rungs of the ladder of thought that's led me to the great discovery of voila.
The bell rings, and Allison flicks on his videotape television alarm system. On the screen appears the familiar red and yellow S of Superman.
It's Superman. Wow, Kent sure found him fast.
Weatherspoon speaks into the walkie-talkie system. He is connected to his doorbell.
Superman, I'll be right up. I've been expecting you.
Allison races up the stairs, 2 at a time, opens the door, and at once feels a tiny prick of pain as one of the 2 thugs who's waiting beside the doorway plunges a giant hypodermic needle into Weatherspoon's right arm. A needle containing a combination of an instant sleep-inducing drug and a truth serum. The other thug takes down the picture of Superman's chest from in front of the camera of Weatherspoon's videotape alarm system, and Allison is tossed into the back of a waiting ambulance. The 2 men climb in after him, and the vehicle drives off. Moments later, Clark Kent, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane pull up in front of Allison's modest home.
Look, that's funny. The door's slightly open.
Something strange here. That door shouldn't be open.
Jimmy and Lois stare at Clark, who has bent over to touch a minuscule drop of red on the doorstep. Clark speaks as if to himself.
Blood.
Clark, you're half blind. Don't be such an alarmist. I don't see anything there.
Still bemused by his discovery of a drop of type B blood on Weatherspoon's doorstep with the aid of Superman's X-ray eyes, Kent zooms in on a counter in Allison's laboratory.
Allison pricked his finger on a broken test tube last week. Sure enough, there's a spot of type B blood on the counter.
Anyway, Clark, you wouldn't know blood if you saw it. Anytime there's any danger, you're never around.
I'm a pacifist, Lois. I deplore violence.
So I've noticed.
Jimmy pushes open the door, and Clark and Lois follow him inside the house and down the stairs to the basement.
Dr. Weatherspoon, Allison, are you here?
As the trio walk down the stairs, Clark scans the house to confirm to himself what he already knows. Allison is gone.
Hey, look at this. Weatherspoon left a funny-looking engine going. He'd never go off and leave something like this running, would he?
My worst suspicions have been verified. If Allison's secret should become known to the wrong people, entire economic systems could be destroyed, an immediate empire could be built, and once again, mankind's the loser. This is a job for Superman. Jimmy, Lois, I just remembered I must... does anyone have an aspirin?
Uh-oh, looks like trouble. Clark's splitting, and every time Clark leaves, have you noticed, Lois? There's trouble.
As Clark runs back up the basement stairs and outside,
Clark, where are you going?
Clark spots a taxi and hails it.
I'm going back to the office in case Weatherspoon calls in. You 2 take the Galaxy limo and drive around the neighborhood and see if you can find him. Check with the neighbors. Maybe they know where he's gone off to. Galaxy Communications driver, and hurry.
Okay, Mac.
As the taxi pulls up in front of the Galaxy building in the shelter of the cab and faster than any human eye can see, Kent leaves a dollar bill on the seat of the cab, changes into his natural role as Superman, and is flying through the sky above Metropolis on his way back to Weatherspoons to pick up the trail of the missing scientist before the taxi driver can turn around to tell his passenger how much he owes him.
What? Where'd that guy go so fast? You think he was Superman?
Superman's X-ray vision spots the faint tracks of what might be an ambulance pulling away from in front of Allison's house.
That's interesting. First, a minuscule drop of blood on the doorstep that could easily have come from the prick of a hypodermic needle, and now looks like those tire tracks could have been made by an ambulance. Aha! There it is now, pulling up in front of the abandoned atomic silo site just outside the city. I can see nothing inside the silo. It's lead-lined, of course, due to possible atomic radiation.
Up, and then spinning himself rapidly around in a counterclockwise motion, his arms in dive position, Superman transforms himself into a human power drill and plunges down 80 feet below the Earth's surface, boring closer and closer toward the headquarters of CSDC, Counter System Development Center, headed by none other than Malcolm Mullick, known to his friends and enemies alike as Mole. Meantime, inside the silo...
Let's see whether or not the truth serum's taken effect on our friend Dr. Weatherspoon.
The drug administered to Weatherspoon has been perfectly timed so that as the sleeping potion wears off, the truth serum immediately begins to take effect. Allison moans, and his eyes flutter open.
Weatherspoon, your formula.
But Weatherspoon's psychological resistance to the truth serum is so strong that his whole body has gone rigid, as if he were paralyzed, and he can't even open his mouth to speak, even though, under the influence of the serum, he'd be more than willing to tell the truth to the Mole if he could. Mole, just about to grab Weatherspoon and shake him until he talks, steps back as Superman bursts through the lead side of the silo, throws his indestructible cape about the three men like they were three leftover Brussels sprouts about to be wrapped up in saran wrap and put in the refrigerator to keep.
I'll just knock this cape at the end here. There, that should hold you until I get back to pick up my cape. Weatherspoon, I've got to get you to the hospital immediately. I'll deal with you later, Mole.
Hours later, in an interview at Metropolis Hospital with Perry White and Clark Kent.
So that's the scoop, Clark. And when I woke up, Superman was gone. But I'd sure like to thank him. And I sure hope he's watching the evening news tonight.
I hope so too, Allison. Perry, can we bring the cameras in for a close-up? I'd like to get a picture of Allison opening the envelope his father left for him.
Certainly, Clark. Here it is, Allison. The envelope your father left with me as executor of his estate, to be handed over to you upon your 21st birthday, which is today.
Uncle Perry, you've been like a father to me since my own father's death. I'm feeling weak. Would you please read me what it says?
Of course, Allison. That's enough now, Clark. Get your cameras out of here and give us a little privacy.
Perry turns to Allison as everyone else leaves the hospital room, tears open the envelope, then begins to read.
2 cups peeled, cored, sliced green apples, 1/2 cup brown sugar, 1 tablespoon cinnamon. What on earth?
I don't understand.
1 egg, 2 tablespoons lemon juice.
Oh, no, Uncle Perry. It sounds like the recipe handed down to my mother from her mother, who of course got it from her mother. I think it's the recipe for my mom's green apple pie.
Great Scott.